It started the day I found the old radio at a flea market. It was vintage, dusty, and gave off this faint hum like it had its own pulse. Something about it felt wrong, but I bought it anyway. The seller didn't know much, just that it had belonged to his grandfather. As I walked home with it, I swore I heard faint whispers coming from the radio, even though it was switched off. I told myself it was just the wind. That night, I set it up in my room. It had no markings, no brand, nothing to show how old it was. When I turned it on, it crackled loudly before a voice spoke clear, calm, and way too real. It wasn't music or ads, just a man reading the news in a monotone voice. But here's the weird part: the events he described hadn't happened yet. The announcer mentioned a car crash at the corner of Maple and 3rd, even gave the victim's name. I thought it was some kind of prank or maybe an old recording. Until the next morning, on my way to work, traffic was backed up near Maple and 3rd. When I passed the scene, I saw the wreckage of the exact car the radio had described. My stomach dropped. I tried to brush it off as coincidence, but the radio wouldn't let me. That night, it announced a power outage in my neighborhood. The voice was steady, like it was daring me not to believe it. I laughed it off until the lights went out 5 minutes later. Sitting there in the dark, the radio's static filled the room like it was mocking me. I couldn't shake the chills crawling up my spine. The predictions kept coming, each one weirder than the last. A cat stuck in a drain on 4th Avenue. A stranger spilling coffee on his shirt outside a Kafka copyright. All of it came true. I started recording the broadcasts, desperate to prove this was real. But every time I played them back, the tape was blank. It was like the radio didn't want to be exposed. Then it got personal. Local man, age 27, will lose his wallet at the diner. That man was me. I felt my hands go clammy as I heard it. After dinner, I checked my pocket, and of course my wallet was gone. I found it in the exact spot the radio had described. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't stop listening. The next broadcast made me sick. House fire on Pine Avenue, 3 injured. I knew that address, it was just down the street. I had to do something. I ran to warn the family, banging on their door like a maniac. They laughed at me, called me paranoid. I almost started doubting myself. Then, an hour later, I smelled the smoke. Flames consumed their living room as sirens wailed in the distance. My chest felt heavy. The radio had been right again. I started to wonder, was it predicting these events, or was it causing them? The voice sounded so calm, like it already knew how things would end. I couldn't shake the feeling it was watching me. Then came the strangest prediction yet. Unidentified figure will appear in the alley near 6th Street. Witnesses report glowing eyes. That was near my apartment. I didn't want to go, but something compelled me. Curiosity, fear, or maybe just the need for answers. I walked to the alley, heart racing. At first, it was empty, just shadows and silence. But then, I saw it. A figure standing at the far end, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. My breath caught. It didn't move, just stared. And then, just as quickly as it appeared, it vanished into the night. I ran home, my pulse thundering in my ears. The radio was already on when I got back. I hadn't touched it. The announcer's voice was steady, almost mocking. You shouldn't have gone there. I unplugged the radio, but the voice didn't stop. You can't run from it now. The static buzzed louder, like it was laughing at me. That night, I barely slept. Every noise outside felt like a threat. Every shadow felt alive. The radio knew too much, and I didn't know how to make it stop. The next morning, the prediction came early. Local man reported missing. Apartment shows signs of struggle. My stomach flipped. Was it talking about me? I packed my bags, ready to leave town. But as I grabbed my keys, the radio crackled again. You can't escape what's already decided. Driving out of the city, I tossed the radio into the river. For the first time in days, I felt a small sense of relief. But then my car radio switched on. It was the same voice. You can't get rid of me. I'm everywhere. My grip tightened on the wheel as static filled the car. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw headlights behind me. They were too close, blinding. And then, just like that, they disappeared. I pulled over, shaking, but the road behind me was empty. The voice on the radio whispered, "It's closer than you think." When I got home, I smashed every piece of tech I owned. My phone, my TV, all of it. But the predictions didn't stop. They came in my dreams. Each message was darker, more invasive. It knew things about me I'd never told anyone. It felt like the radio was inside my head. The final prediction came at 3:33 a.m. Final report. Subject will vanish tonight. No traces will remain. My hands were trembling as I stared at the glowing screen. I don't know what's going to happen, but if you're watching this, take my advice. If you ever find a radio like mine, don't turn it on. Don't even touch it. And if it calls your name, don't answer. It already knows too much.